Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Bajirao IAS Academy current affairs analysis session. So you all knew that we have been discussing environment, ecology, biodiversity, climate change related current affairs, and these current affairs topics are in use and they are very important for your upcoming prelims examinations. So therefore, one by one we'll try to discuss all these important current affairs topics from the environment portion in a very specific and detailed manner, so that this discussion will be helpful for your upcoming prelims examination. So without any delay, let's get into the first current affairs topic. Right, so this is a global environment facility council meeting, right? So it is with respect to global environment facility as well as global biodiversity framework fund. Now when it comes to the protection of biodiversity, global biodiversity framework fund is very important because we all knew that there is a convention on biological diversity, and this convention on biological diversity's main objective is to protect biodiversity and also face the threats or address the threats which are leading to the degradation of existing biodiversity. So we all knew that there are a number of reasons because of which there has been a degradation of the biodiversity, or biodiversity levels have been declining. Now what is biodiversity? Biodiversity very simply means that species richness in one particular area or in a specific ecosystem, right? So a species richness or biodiversity of any ecosystem is very important for the sustenance of food chain and food web, and in fact the survival or the existence of human beings also dependent on the biodiversity. And why we have been introducing cheetahs into the Indian ecosystem, it is also to further enhance species richness because of their important contribution in the food chain and food web. Now coming to this topic, the first global environment facilities council meeting of global biodiversity framework fund held in United States recently, and in fact the global biodiversity framework fund is part of the convention on biological diversity, right? So this is part of convention on the biological diversity, and in fact the global biodiversity framework fund aims to further increase financing for the implementation of Kunming-Montreal biodiversity framework, right? So earlier a Kunming-Montreal biodiversity framework was signed by a number of countries to protect biodiversity. So you should have to remember this Kunming-Montreal biodiversity framework, and this framework has also set up some targets to be achieved by all the parties who ratified this Kunming-Montreal biodiversity framework. So around 186 countries have ratified this Kunming-Montreal global biodiversity framework, and it was launched in the year 2023. So these two facts are very important, you just have to remember them. So it is ratified by 186 countries and it was launched in the year 2023 at 7th Global Environment Facilities Assembly, Vancouver, Canada. And in fact World Bank has invited to serve as a trustee of Global Biodiversity Framework Fund. So who is the trustee of Global Biodiversity Framework Fund? World Bank is the trustee of this global biodiversity framework fund. And in fact this Kunming-Montreal global biodiversity framework has set around 23 targets, and all those targets needs to be achieved by the year 2030. And apart from Kunming-Montreal global biodiversity framework, what are the other goals or the targets that a number of countries across the world aimed to achieve by the year 2030? The sustainable development goals. So countries also decided to achieve sustainable development goals by the year 2030. So how many sustainable development goals? 17 sustainable development goals and 169 targets, right? So these 17 sustainable development goals and 169 targets will be achieved, or the countries committed themselves to achieve them by the year 2030. And apart from that, this Kunming-Montreal global biodiversity framework also aimed to achieve 30% conservation of land, and see 50% reduction in the invasive alien species, and also raising at least $200 billion per year for the conservation and protection of biodiversity. Now in this context, we need to understand the genesis and the structure functions of the Global Environment Facility. Now when the Global Environment Facility was established, it was established in the year 1992 at a summit called Earth Summit, or it is also known as Rio Earth Summit, that took place in the year 1992. And in fact, the Global Environment Facility is a partnership of around 18 agencies to address world most challenging environmental issues. So there is no doubt that environment and the associated issues are world's most challenging issues. So in order to address those issues, the Global Environment Facility was established in the year 1992 as a result of Rio Earth Summit. And in fact, as of now, the Global Environment Facility has 186 member countries, and India is also one of the member of the Global Environment Facility. And in fact, so Global Environment Facility's main governing body is known as the Council of Global Environment Facility, and this Council of Global Environment Facility would consist of 32 member countries, and they are being appointed by the constituencies of Global Environment Facility member countries. And in fact, you can also go through some functions of the Global Environment Facility, because the Global Environment Facility largely functions as a financing mechanism to 5 most important conventions. So what are the conventions to which the Global Environment Facility usually work as a financial mechanism? For example, the Convention on Biological Diversity, just I have emphasized, and then United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, and Stockholm Convention on Persistent Organic Pollutants, UN Convention to Combat Desertification, and Minamata Convention on Mercury Pollution. So these are the 5 important conventions to which Global Environment Facility generally works as a financial mechanism. Now in this context, you need to understand that India is a member, and Global Environment Facility has 186 members, and it was established in the year 1992, and Global Environment Facility works as a financial mechanism to these 5 important conventions. So you need to remember all these important conventions. So the next topic is about white rhinos, and in fact, so we are talking about white colored rhinoceros. So we'll try to understand what is exactly in news about the white rhinoceros. So recently, scientists have announced the first successful embryo transfer in white rhinoceros, right? So this is embryo transfer of white rhinoceros to conserve and protect the critically endangered rhino population, and this is done through the in vitro fertilization. And why it is important? It is important because of 2 reasons. The first reason is rhinoceros, particularly the white rhinoceros, are critically endangered animals as per the IUCN Red List, and the second reason is that it is the first successful embryo transfer in white rhinoceros through the in vitro fertilization. So because of these 2 reasons, it is very important and it is very significant. So I have just mentioned that as per IUCN Red List of species, this white rhinoceros is categorized or classified as critically endangered species, right? Critically endangered species. So what will be the next classification of any species from the critically endangered species as per IUCN Red List? So if the species population further threatened, it will become extinct in wild and then permanently extinct, right? So that's how it is being done by the IUCN Red List of species. So you need to understand this. And apart from that, there are some important biotechnologies which are being involved to protect species. So what are those biotechnologies? They can be used to protect species, particularly species which have been facing the threat of extinction, species which are critically endangered. Now the first technology is that biobanks to store the biological samples. So when we talk about the biological samples, they include cells, they also include tissues as well, and these biobanks can be used to store the biological samples for research as well as for the backup resource, right? So that will help store the genetic diversity for a longer periods of time, and that will also help in creation or generation of these species and also sustaining the populations as well. And the second technology is biosynthesis technology, and in fact as of now human beings are producing or generating a lot of products from the animals. So therefore the biosynthesis is a biotechnology, it is part of biotechnology, and that can create substitutes for the animal derived products. For example, some products we are deriving from the animals, and because of that reason we generally use animals, we generally kill animals to derive those products. So through biosynthesis we can avoid the need to kill these animals, so we can also produce these animal products without actually killing them, such as safer fungicides from the printed DNA to protect the endangered species. Now imagine one species is an endangered species or critically endangered species, and if we start killing those animals, they would extinct over a period of time. However, extinction of species is not good for the biodiversity, it is not good for the other species as well, right? So the ecosystems and trophic levels would start collapsing. So if those animals are so there's no such animal which is actually present in the ecosystem. And apart from that, there is another method of biotechnology, that is gene drive. So gene drive means, so this can be harnessed to eliminate invasive alien species. So as of now there is a threat of invasive alien species which have been damaging or destroying the native ecosystems. So in order to eliminate the invasive alien species such as rats and other animals, the gene drive technology can be used so that we could eliminate the invasive alien species. So these invasive alien species have certain advantages if they are introduced in new ecosystem, whether intentionally or unintentionally. Their populations would increase and they start threatening the native ecosystems and endemic species as well. And because of that reason, the invasive alien species is also one of the main threat for the damage to the existing biodiversity. However, coming back to the rhinos, particularly the white rhinos, now there are around 5 species of rhinos. So 2 African, so within 2 African rhinos, one is white rhino and second is black rhino, and 3 Asian rhinos, and one is among 3 Asian rhinos, greater one-horned rhinoceros that we can see in Kaziranga National Park, which is in Assam. And this greater one-horned rhinoceros is also known as Indian rhino and Sumatran rhino and Javan rhino, right? So these are 5 species of rhino, so you should have to remember. So there may be a question that out of 5 species of rhinoceros, so which type of rhinoceros usually found in India? So that is greater one-horned rhinoceros, mostly found in Kaziranga National Park of Assam, right? So you should have to remember this. And secondly and third topic is Shinkunla Pass. So we'll try to understand what exactly is this Shinkunla Pass. So recently the Border Roads Organization, we all knew that the Border Roads Organization mainly construct infrastructure across the border areas, and in order to improve infrastructure in these border areas, the union government recently started the Vibrant Villages program, right? So vibrant villages program has been launched by the union government to improve infrastructure, to improve economy across these border villages. So therefore it will help arresting migration from those border areas, and it will also leads to development of tourism as well as so inclusive growth and development of those border areas. Now coming back to this Shinkunla Pass, Border Roads Organization so recently built a road which connects Manali, which is in Himachal Pradesh, to Leh, that is in Ladakh, through Darcha and Nimmu on Kargil Leh highway. Okay, so this is what the Border Roads Organization has constructed, and in fact the road is not only very short road, but it also crosses only one single pass, and that pass is known as Shinkunla Pass. So that lies at the height of 16,500 feet above the sea level, and in fact this Shinkunla Pass connects Lahul and Spiti in Himachal Pradesh with Janskar Valley, that is part of Kargil in Ladakh. Remember that Ladakh is a union territory and Kargil is part of Ladakh, and this Shinkunla Pass connects Lahul and Spiti in Himachal Pradesh with Janskar Valley, and this is very important that you should remember. And you can also see the road as well which connects Darcha in Himachal Pradesh to Leh in Ladakh. Okay, so you can also see the Shinkunla tunnel here, right? So this is Shinkunla tunnel, and this Shinkunla tunnel connects the Lahul and Spiti in Himachal Pradesh with Janskar Valley in Kargil of Ladakh, right? So in fact this will result in road having all weather connectivity to the Ladakh region. So that's why it is very important, and you should also remember. And apart from that, what you should do is go through the map of India. There are some important passes, right? For example, Natula Pass. So all those passes located across India China borders and different places. So it would be better if you go through all those important passes, because there may be a chance of asking questions from the passes as well. And next is Anthropocene epoch. It is also known as a human epoch. So we'll try to understand about this, because Anthropocene epoch, like previous epoch, are not officially designated epochs, and the current age that we are living, that the human beings are living, and the impact the impact of human beings on the environment or climate coming to affect the larger climate or the environment can be seen in this Anthropocene epoch or human epochs, right? So in fact, this Anthropocene or human epoch is an unofficial unit of geological time, right? So this is unofficial time or unofficial unit of geologic time. And in fact, so this Anthropocene epoch is it described as most recent period in Earth's history, right? Because it is very recently started, when the human activities started to have a significant impact on the Earth's climate and ecosystem, right? So when we have observed that human activities started impacting climate and environment, and this phase is known as Anthropocene epoch or human epoch. And in fact, because it is recently started right from the industrialization in the 19th century, so this is known as the human epoch or Anthropocene epoch. And the current epoch is called the Holocene, which began in the year 11,700 years ago, right? The current epoch, the official epoch that we are living currently belongs to the Holocene epoch, right? So that began in 11,700 years ago. And in fact, so after the last ice age it has started. And apart from that, the currently on geological time scale, so if we look at the geological time scale, right, so we are living in the Phanerozoic eon. So we belong to the Phanerozoic eon, and from the Phanerozoic eon we then belong to the Cenozoic era. So this is the Cenozoic era, and within the Cenozoic era, then we belong to the Quaternary period, and within the Quaternary period we belong to the Holocene epoch, right? So we belong to the Holocene epoch, so that has started just 11,700 years ago, and within the Holocene epoch we belong to the Megalayan age. So this is very important, and geological time scale is also very important, because previously so these geological time scales are also asked, so you have to remember this as well. And next is ecocide. So we'll try to understand what exactly the meaning of ecocide, because in recent times the term ecocide is in news regularly, and there may be chance that you may get a question that which of the following best describes the term ecocide. So therefore it is important for you to understand what is the definition of ecocide. So recently Belgium, which is a European country, has become the first country in Europe to recognize ecocide as a crime, right? So in fact Belgium has recognized ecocide as not just the national crime but also an international crime, and because of this particular reason ecocide is in news. And now we will try to understand what is the definition of ecocide. So ecocide generally means it is an unlawful or wanton acts which are committed by the individuals with the knowledge, right? So we are having knowledge, and with the knowledge we have committed an unlawful act, and that could have a substantial likelihood of severe or either widespread long-term damage to the environment being caused by those acts. For example, deforestation and ocean damage by plastic pollution, right? So ocean pollution or ocean ecosystem damage by oil spills, so they are known as ecocide. So I hope you have understood what is the definition of ecocide. So ecocide means that individuals with the knowledge committing an act which likely have a substantial impact on the environment, particularly the negative impact on the environment. For example, individuals know that deforestation causes a lot of negative impact on the environment, ecosystem and biodiversity, but despite that doing such acts which causes long-term damage to the environment is known as ecocide. And what is the news? Belgium became the first European country to declare ecocide as national as well as international crime. And in fact, the term ecocide was first invented by the American biologist Arthur Galston in the year 1970s, and India is yet to make it an offense. So India not yet made ecocide an offense. So India is yet to make ecocide an offense. So those things you should remember. And next topic is earth hour, because remember that there were questions previously asked about the earth hour as well. So we'll try to understand what is the definition of earth hour and who declares earth hour when the earth hour is celebrated, right? So even if you look at the previous state public service commission examinations, there were questions about this earth hour, and this year next year earth hour will be celebrated set to be observed on March 23, 8:30 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. Okay, so earth hour is said to be observed on March 23 to 8:30 to 9:30 p.m. Now what is generally an earth hour? So we'll try to understand what is this earth hour means. So earth hour was famously started as lights out event in Sydney, Australia 2007, right? So during earth hour, that is generally observed in between 8:30 to 9:30 p.m. Indian Standard Time. So this is just a lights out event that was first observed in Sydney, Australia in the year 2017. And in fact, the Earth Hour is a global event. That means it is being observed throughout the world, right? A global event that is observed annually on last Saturday of March, right? So this is observed on last Saturday of March, and it is organized by the World Wildlife Fund. WWF, World Wildlife Fund, organizes this Earth Hour, and you should remember this. This is very important, that World Wildlife Fund organizes this Earth Hour, and this is observed last Saturday of March every year from 8:30 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. and it was first organized in Sydney, Australia in the year 2017. So these are all facts, and these facts are very important for your prelims examination. And in fact, the Earth Hour is a symbolic rise of awareness about climate change and even promotion of the energy conservation in the world as well, right? So because we all knew that climate change, global warming, environmental pollution are primarily driven by the human activities. So in order to make sure that we conserve resources and we also protect our environment, so this Earth Hour is a voluntary initiative that is organized by the World Wildlife Fund on the last Saturday of March every year from 8:30 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. And in fact, beyond the hour, Earth Hour inspires people to take further action for a sustainable future. So it essentially aimed at conserving resources and also increasing awareness among the people about the environment and biodiversity conservation and ecosystem, and also resource conservation as well. For example, when we look into the Earth Hour in India, we knew that more than 50% of our electricity is generated from the coal, and coal is a fossil fuel, and when we burn fossil fuels, they release carbon into the atmosphere, and it would further cause global warming and climate change. And Earth Hour will make sure that we reduce our needs. So we meet our needs, but it emphasizes on sustainable utilization of our needs. And next topic is ethanol 100. So we'll try to understand what exactly is ethanol 100. Now ethanol 100 fuel was launched by the Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas recently. See, a few things which are very important about ethanol 100. So ethanol 100 recently launched by which ministry? So it is Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas. So we may be confused in between Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas and Ministry of New and Renewable Energy, because ethanol is very often associated with the renewable form of energy. So this is recently launched by Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas. So when we compare ethanol with the crude oil and also other forms of energy, so ethanol is comparatively less polluting, right? So because of that reason, and in order to achieve energy efficiency also, the usage of methanol is increasingly emphasized on recent times. And in fact, ethanol is also produced from the food products as well, right? So we'll understand what is this ethanol 100 program that is launched by Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas. So ethanol 100 is a cleaner and greener alternative to the gasoline, right? So it is a clean and green alternative to gasoline, and in fact ethanol is also a blend of 92 to 94% ethanol and 4 to 5% of the motor spirit to provide color to the flame, and 1.5% co-solvent, which is high saturated alcohol. So this is how ethanol 100 is constituted. So one thing that you need to remember is that ethanol 100 is a cleaner and a greener alternative to the gasoline that we have been using for generating energy. And apart from that, ethanol 100 primarily constitutes 92 to 94 percentage of the ethanol. Apart from that, 4 to 5 percentage of the motor spirit. And why motor spirit is used? To provide color to the flame, and also 1.5% co-solvent, higher saturated alcohol, is also used in ethanol 100. And in fact, ethanol 100 produces lower emissions of the greenhouse gases, and that is the overall purpose and overall objective of this ethanol 100 or using ethanol, because higher emissions of the greenhouse gases would result in the global warming and increasing temperatures and climate change. However, when we use ethanol 100, so it would result in lowering emissions of the greenhouse gases, and in fact it would reduce the greenhouse gas emissions by around 63% on well or to wheel basis. And in fact, ethanol 100 consisting of high octane rating, so because of it having high octane rating, it makes it suitable for high performance engines, thereby ensuring higher efficiency and higher power output as well. And in fact, so when we generate ethanol 100 domestically, so we could reduce our dependence on import of crude oil as well. Remember that India has been importing around 85% of its energy, particularly the crude oil requirement and LPG requirement, from other countries. So therefore, we could substantially reduce our import from other countries, and we could also save our foreign exchange reserves. So when we increasingly use ethanol, so that is ethanol 100 program. And next, it is about the zero budget natural farming. So we'll try to understand what is this zero budget natural farming as well, because this zero budget natural farming is also increasingly in news, and in fact it is part of zero budget natural farming, right? So this is part of the organic farming or natural farming, right? Natural farming. In recent times, emphasis on natural farming is increased, right? So the governments and also farmers have been increasingly emphasizing on natural farming. Why? Because we can minimize input requirement, so input cost can be substantially reduced, right? So through organic farming or natural farming, input cost can be substantially minimized, and also soil fertility can be maintained. So this would be another advantage. And apart from that, we can conserve natural resources, and sustainable income for the farmers, or you can also say income security for the farmers. And apart from that, consumer health, and also export potential of such products, such agricultural products which are being produced through the natural or organic methods. So because of all these reasons, a zero budget natural farming has been increasingly emphasized. Now when we talk about this zero budget natural farming in India, so it is mastered or it is practiced or formulated by an individual named Subhash Palekar in Maharashtra, India, right? So this zero budget natural farming is being practiced on 4 different and distinct methods, right? So what are those 4 different distinct methods? So one is Bijamrut, second Jivamrut, and Achadana and Wafasa. So these are the methods which are being used as part of the zero budget natural farming. When we talk about the Bijamrut, so bij means seed, right? So it is a seed treatment using cow dung or cow urine. So before you actually sow the seeds in your land, so first what you have to do is you need to treat the seeds with the cow dung and cow urine. And next, Jivamrit, so that means applying inoculation made of local cow dung and cow urine. And apart from that, mulching is also another method. So in mulching, this is also known as achadana. So activities to ensure favorable microclimate. For example, you have a waste plant parts, so you can just cover the entire land with this waste plant parts. So that will help in maintaining favorable microclimate in the soil. That will also help in maintaining adequate moisture in the soil. And wafasa, so that is soil aeration. So in wafasa, generally what happens is that adequate soil aeration will also help the plants, right? So therefore these four methods are used in the zero budget natural farming, right? So what are those four distinct methods which are part of zero budget natural farming? So they are bijamrut, treatment of seeds with cow dung and cow urine, and then jivamrit, so it is like a fertilizer, and then achadana and wafasa. And as I've already told you that in India it was first practiced by or formulated by Subhash Palekar. However, it was first practiced by a Japanese farmer and a philosopher, Masanobu Fukuoka. Okay, so he was a Japanese farmer, a Japanese philosopher. So he first practiced this zero budget natural farming, and in fact, as of now, 11 states in India practice this zero budget natural farming over around 6.5 lakh hectares, right? So around 6.5 lakh hectares. So 11 states have been practicing zero budget natural farming. So among all the states, Andhra Pradesh is the state which has committed itself to transform the existing chemical based agriculture into the organic or natural farming. And in fact, states like Andhra Pradesh has adopted the zero budget natural farming over 1 lakh hectares of land, and it also aims to convert the entire agricultural land pool 80 lakh hectares under the zero budget natural farming by the year 2027. So this is the objective or aim of the state of Andhra Pradesh with respect to natural farming. And next is about Ganga river water dolphins. So we'll try to understand a few things about the Ganga river water dolphins. So India's first National Dolphin Research Center. Okay, so National Dolphin Research Center, it was recently inaugurated in Patna, Bihar. Right, so it was recently inaugurated in Patna, Bihar, and it aimed at conserving the endangered Gangetic dolphins. So when we talk about the Gangetic dolphins, so these are the freshwater dolphins, right? So they are freshwater dolphin species, and they found in Indus and Brahmaputra system of rivers. So for the first time in Patna, Bihar, this first National Dolphin Research Center is established. So you have to remember this, and the aim of setting up first National Dolphin Research Center is to protect and conserve endangered Gangetic dolphin, river water dolphins. And some other details with respect to Ganga river water dolphin is that, so its scientific name is Platanista gangetica. So that is its scientific name, and it is also commonly known as Susu, and it is an endemic species in the Indian subcontinent. Now what is an endemic species? So endemic species means any species which is confined to any specific geographic location. For example, there are number of species which are endemic to the Western Ghats. So that means, so those species can only be seen, can only be found in the Western Ghats alone. And in a similar way, so this Gangetic river water dolphin is also endemic to the Indian subcontinent. Remember, the Indian subcontinent, Nepal, Bhutan, and even Bangladesh, Pakistan, so all these countries forms part of the Indian subcontinent. And in fact, this Gangetic dolphin is also known as the tiger of river Ganga, and it is having a long thin snout, a rounded belly, a stocky body, and large flappers. And apart from that, some other features of this Ganga river water dolphin is that the females are generally considered larger than the male river water dolphins, and in fact the female Ganga river water dolphins give birth to one calf every 2 to 3 years. So that's why you can imagine that the population of Ganga river water dolphin is very low, right? So because the chances of fertility and even chances of a female dolphin giving birth to new calf is also not very frequent. Okay, so what is the IUCN status? Its IUCN status is endangered. So this is endangered species, and after endangered it will become critically endangered, and after critically endangered, if its numbers further decline, so extinct in the wild, right? So permanently extinct, right? So that's how IUCN categorize any species. And apart from that, we all knew that Wildlife Protection Act 1972 extended different degrees of protection, legal protection to the wild flora and fauna, and the Wildlife Protection Act 1972 lists the Gangetic dolphin in the Schedule 1. So it is provided protection on the lines of Project Tiger or Tiger as well. Now, what are some characteristics of these dolphins? So an adult dolphin could weigh between 70 kg to 90 kg, and breeding season of Gangetic dolphin extends from January to June. And when we talk about the geographical spread of these Ganga river dolphins, so Ganga, Brahmaputra, Meghna and Karnafuli, Sangur river systems, Vikramshila Ganges Dolphin Sanctuary, and Vikramshila Ganges Dolphin Sanctuary is also located in Bihar as well. So their populations are dwindling. The current population stands at 3,500 to 5,000 species. Gangetic dolphins, and its weight, as I have already told you, they generally weigh 70 kg to 890 kg, and their length is 7.8 to 9 feet, and their habitats mainly freshwater rivers. And these are some characteristic features of the Ganga river water dolphins, right? So you have to remember a few things, that first National Dolphin Research Center is established at Patna, Bihar, and it is for the conservation of the endangered Gangetic dolphin, and it is an endemic species. It is also known as Susu, and it is also known as tiger of the river Ganga. And next is International Big Cat Alliance. So we'll try to understand what is this International Big Cat Alliance, right? So it is a multi-country and multi-agency coalition, right? So it is an intergovernmental organization, we could say, but in this intergovernmental organization, several other agencies are also part of, essentially aimed at conservation and protection of 7 big cats. So what are those 7 big cats? So tiger, lion, jaguar, cheetah, puma, snow leopard and leopard. So these are 7 big cats, and this International Big Cat Alliance aimed at conservation and protection of 7 big cats in the world. And in fact, the International Big Cat Alliance comprises of 96 big cat tiger range countries. What are range countries? Okay, so what are the range countries? So the range countries are the countries in which we can see at least one of these species: tiger, lion, jaguar, cheetah, puma, snow leopard and leopard, any of these species. So if we found in any of these countries, they are known as range countries. And in fact, the International Big Cat Alliance comprises of 96 big cat range countries, and in fact, conservation of these big cat and scientific organizations and business groups, so everything is part of the International Big Cat Alliance. And as I have already told you, that it aims at conservation of 7 big cats, namely lion, tiger, snow leopard, leopard, cheetah, jaguar and puma. And in fact, so the International Big Cat Alliance also recognizes the importance of integrating biodiversity policies with the sustainable development goals to achieve holistic and inclusive conservation outcomes. So we all knew that by the year 2023, 50 years of Project Tiger is completed, right? So in India, so when is Project Tiger is launched? So it was launched in the year 1973, exactly after 1 year of the Wildlife Protection Act. So therefore in the year 2023, the 50th anniversary of Project Tiger has been celebrated, and on the eve of the 50th anniversary of the Project Tiger, the International Big Cat Alliance was also officially launched. So you just have to remember those things. And apart from that, you should remember what are the 7 big cat species, and what is their IUCN status and CITES status and Wildlife Protection Act listing. So you can pause the video and you can also go through all these important and relevant details given here. And next, UN Environment Assembly. So when we talk about the UN Environment Assembly, so apart from UN Environment Assembly, we should also understand a few aspects related to the United Nations Environment Program as well. So recently the 6th session of United Nations Environment Assembly, so it is also UN ES 6, got concluded at the UN Environment Program headquarters at Nairobi and Kenya. So where is this United Nations Environment Program's headquarter is located? So it is located in Nairobi, Kenya. And when we talk about the United Nations Environment Assembly, so sorry for that. So the United Nations Environment Assembly's some details with respect to that. So it was established in the year 2012, right? So when it was established, so it was established in the year 2012 at the United Nations Conference on Sustainable Development that was held in the year 2012, right? So United Nations Conference on Sustainable Development was held in 2012, and in this conference, this United Nations Environment Assembly was launched. And what are the roles and what are the functions of the United Nations Environment Assembly? So in fact, the United Nations Environment Assembly is conducted or is part of the United Nations Environment Program, and it is world's highest level decision making body on the environment. And because primarily it is conducted by the United Nations, and that's why it is world's highest level decision making body on the environment. And in fact, the World UN Environment Assembly also set the global environmental agenda, and it also provide the overarching policy guidance, and it also define policy response to address emerging environmental challenges in the world. Now if you look at the world, so there is no doubt that the environmental issues are taking the front page, and environmental aspects are also very, very important in recent times because of global warming, climate change, biodiversity conservation or degradation of biodiversity, or damages caused to the environment by the human aspects. So because of that reason, collective action is very important from all the countries. So in order to achieve that collective action, and in order to set the goals, and also make sure that each individual country has its own commitments with respect to the conservation and protection of environment. So such events are being organized by the United Nations Environment Program and United Nations Environment Assembly. So all these issues will be discussed. And when we talk about the organizational structure of United Nations Environment Assembly, it consists of 1 president and 8 vice presidents, and they form United Nations Environment Assembly Bureau, right? And in fact, so it consists of all 193 members of the United Nations General Assembly. So we all knew that United Nations as of now having 193 members. So therefore United Nations Environment Assembly consisting of all members of the United Nations. And next, a very important topic is about the RLC. Okay, so remember that this RLC is in news, right? So this is in news, and UPSC has also asked a question about this RLC because it is in news. The reason is that RLC is drying up. Okay, so there may be no RLC in future. So because of that particular reason, because the key driving factor is the anthropogenic reasons. Because of anthropogenic reasons, the RLC has been drying up. And in fact, if you look at the location of the RLC, it is located in Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan. Both are the Central Asian countries. So I would like to suggest you please open the map, or you can also search RLC on your phones, and you can see that this RLC is located in two countries, Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan, right? So it is drying up, and when it dries, this area looks like a desert. Okay, so because of that reason, it is in use. The desert which emerged due to the drying up of RLC has made Central Asia a much dustier place, right? So the entire Central Asia, most of the Central Asia becomes dustier because of the drying up of RLC, which is located in Kazakhstan and north of Uzbekistan. And in fact, it was once a large saltwater lake which is part of the Central Asia, right? So it is part of the Central Asia, and in fact it lies between the boundaries of Kazakhstan to the north and Uzbekistan to the south. So that's why I told you to look into the map for the location of RLC, but largely this RLC is drying up now. And there are some other important lakes which shrunk in the last few decades, right? So they are also drying up in the last few years. So one is Lake Urmia. Right? So why this Lake Urmia is drying up, or it disappearing? So it lies in the bottom of large central depression in Azerbaijan region of northwest Iran, right? So in these areas, so you can see this Lake Urmia. So remember that RLC, Lake Urmia, and their locations are very, very important. So you need to identify their locations. And apart from that, there's also another lake called Lake Hamoun. So this is a freshwater lake in Iran, on Iran-Afghanistan border. So these are some of the lakes which have been disappearing in the past few decades, and they would completely disappear in the future. The first one is RLC, and RLC is located in two countries, Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan. And Lake Urmia, so this is part of the large central depression in Azerbaijan and Iran. And then another lake is Lake Hamoun. So Lake Hamoun is in Iran-Afghanistan border. So next one is butterfly cicada. So we'll try to understand what exactly is this butterfly cicada and why it is in news. A new species of cicada was recently discovered in the state of Meghalaya, right? So that species, we'll try to understand about that. So right, and in fact, this new butterfly that is recently discovered in the state of Meghalaya, it belongs to the genus Bicortina, right? So this belongs to the genus Bicortina, and in fact it marks the first ever record of this genus in the country, and that's why it is very, very important. So butterfly cicada recently discovered in which state? So that may be a question to you. And secondly, so this a butterfly species which belong to the genus Bicortina, so it marks the first ever record of the genus in the country. And apart from that, this species in this genus Bicortina are often called as butterfly cicadas because of their colorful wings, right? So these butterflies having colorful wings, and because of that particular reason, so these butterflies are known as butterfly cicada. And this present discovery extends the distributional range of these butterflies belong to genus Bicortina from Southeast Asia into the Northeast India. So earlier it is believed that these butterflies with that particular genus only endemic to the Southeast Asia, but recently the discovery of these butterflies in Meghalaya, so thereby the the distributional range of these butterflies further extended to the northeastern part of India. So it also increases the total number of known Bicartina to species to 7. So as of now, the Bicartina genus butterfly species are 7, right? So this is about the butterfly cycada. And next, Wasuki indicus. So remember that previously also in our news analysis we have discussed about this Wasuki indicus. So what is Wasuki indicus? So Wasuki indicus is the name of a giant predator snake, right? So this is a giant predator snake, and its fossil are recently discovered in the state of Gujarat and Panandaro lignite mine in Kutch, and this is named as Wasuki indicus. So a very giant and a huge snake species, so that is recently discovered in the state of Gujarat in lignite mines in the Kutch, and it is named as Wasuki indicus. So when we talk about some more details with respect to Wasuki indicus, it likely lived 47 million years ago during the middle Eocene period. So Eocene period. So it likely lived 47 million years ago during the middle Eocene period, and its length range is 36 to 49 feet. So if you look at the total length of the snake species, it ranges between 36 to 49 feet. However, this Wasuki indicus lived 47 million years ago, but now it went extinct, but only the fossils were discovered, like how we have been discovering the fossils of dinosaurs in different parts of the world. In a similar way, so this Wasuki indicus fossil also discovered. However, one thing that you need to remember, that it is so far the largest snake species that is found anywhere in the world, and in fact this Wasuki indicus species is a member of Matsodi snake family that appeared roughly 90 million years ago, but it went extinct about 12,000 years ago, right? So next is a fourth global mass global bleaching, coral bleaching event, right? So we'll try to understand what is a coral bleaching event. What is a coral bleaching event and what are these corals? So all those details we'll try to understand in this. Recently, Envo IAS Coral Reef Watch and International Coral Reef Initiative confirm the fourth global mass bleaching event, right? So during the coral bleaching event, what generally happens, coral reefs they expel the zooxanthellae with which they are living in the symbiotic relationship. Since they expel the zooxanthellae, these corals turn into the white color, and that's why it is known as coral bleaching. And this is going to be the fourth global mass coral bleaching event that has been taking place all over the world. And some reasons for the mass coral bleaching is increasing anthropogenic activities such as marine water pollution, increasing shipping, and unsustainable tourism, and this ocean acidification, and also increasing sea surface temperatures. So all these factors are mostly responsible for the global mass coral bleaching events. And in fact, so when we look into some details with respect to coral reefs, so these corals are invertebrate species, right? So they are invertebrate animals. For example, human beings are vertebrates, right? But on the other hand, corals are invertebrate species, right? So they belong to a large group of animals. Corals belong to a large group of animals called Cnidaria. And in fact, corals can be classified into two different types. One are hard corals. So they are called as hard corals because of their reef building corals having rock-like calcareous skeleton. But on the other hand, the next group of corals are also known as soft corals. So corals are two types: hard coral and soft coral. So when we talk about the hard coral, so it is a reef building corals having rock-like calcareous skeleton. Coral reefs are formed by polyps of hard corals, so they establish symbiotic relationship with microscopic algae called zooxanthellae. So as I have already told you that the corals very often live in the symbiotic association. I hope you knew about the symbiotic association. So it generally means that so both live in a harmonious relationship, so they benefit each other. So that is a symbiotic relationship, and corals live in a symbiotic association with the zooxanthellae. So generally when corals expel zooxanthellae, so the color would fade away and they turn white, and this event is known as coral bleaching. And coral bleaching are stressed by changes in conditions such as in case of increasing sea surface temperatures, because corals are very sensitive, right? So since very sensitive, due to global warming, what has been happening, the sea surface temperatures have been increasing, and that is one reason. So increasing light pollution or nutrients, and even all these reasons, they just simply expel the symbiotic algae, and that would cause them turn completely white. There are some factors which are responsible for global coral mass bleaching. So they include increased ocean temperatures due to global warming, climate change, and the runoff of nutrients entering into the seas, pollution, extreme low tides, and ocean acidification. All these reasons I have already told you. So all these reasons would cause the global mass coral bleaching events, right? So next topic is clean energy transitions program. So we'll try to understand what is clean energy transitions program. So recently International Energy Agency IEA released the clean energy transition program annual report. So you may get a question that the clean energy transition program annual report is released by which of the following agencies? So the correct answer is International Energy Agency. International Energy Agency releases clean energy transitions program report, and in fact the first time this clean energy transition report was released by International Energy Agency in the year 2017. So 2017 the first international clean energy transition program has been released, and in fact it is leading, the International Energy Agency is leading the fight against climate change by accelerating the adoption of clean energy, or encouraging countries to make faster transition into the clean and green energy form. Under the clean energy transition program report, the International Energy Agency provides technical assistance and also insights as well. And in fact the objective of International Energy Agency with respect to the clean energy transitions by the countries is aligned with the 2015 Paris Agreement, right? So 2015 Paris Agreement, so or it is also known as Conference of Parties 21 of United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, or sustainable development goals, right? So this clean energy transition program of International Energy Agency is aligned with both 2015 Paris Agreement and the sustainable development goals as well. Next, State of Global Climate Report of 2023. So we'll try to understand about this as well. The State of Global Climate Report, it was released by World Meteorological Organization, WMO. Okay, so World Meteorological Organization is an international global organization So right, so that deal with a number of aspects. So the state of global climate report is also released by World Meteorological Organization. Now what are the key findings of state of global climate report 2023? So in fact this is not that much important, but one thing that you need to remember is state of global climate is released by which organization? It is World Meteorological Organization. You should remember this. And this state of global climate report also revealed that 2023 was the warmest year on record, with a global average near surface temperatures at 1.5 degrees Celsius above the pre-industrial baseline, right? So this report finds out that 2023 was the warmest year on record. And in fact, there are some extreme climate conditions also which are being extreme climate conditions means in recent times in India we have seen heat waves, and we have also seen increased frequency and intensity of cyclones, landslides in Wayanad district of Kerala, and floods, urban floods in Delhi. So all these things we have seen, and they are part of the extreme climate conditions, and they are primarily because of the humanitarian or anthropogenic factors, and they have created humanitarian crisis because of these extreme climate incidents. Millions are experiencing acute food insecurity, hundreds and thousands of people displaced from their homes, and it also leads to the refugee crisis or climate refuge problem. And greenhouse gas levels have been increasing, global warming has also been increasing, climate change becomes a new reality, and surface temperatures have been increasing, ocean heat, acidification, so they are also record high. That has been revealed by the state of global climate report of 2023. And next is climate promise initiative. So we'll try to understand what exactly is this climate promise initiative. So UN development program, UNDP. So UN Development Program has recently unveiled the Climate Promise 2025, and it is a next stage of its Climate Promise initiative. So we'll try to understand what is this Climate Promise initiative. So this is an initiative that is launched by the United Nations Development Program, particularly aimed at supporting the developing countries on their climate action. Remember that these developing countries are poor, underdeveloped countries, and they require financial and technical assistance in order to deal with the climate change, and also in order to mitigate the negative impact or damages caused by the climate change. So therefore, in order to benefit those developing countries, this Climate Promise initiative has been launched by the United Nations Development Program, and it is world's largest offer of support to the developing countries on their nationally determined contributions, enhancement and implementation. So what are these nationally determined contributions? So nationally determined contributions means the contributions from the individual country to reduce their greenhouse gas emissions and also contribute positively for the environment, right? So those are known as nationally determined contributions, or they are also known as intended nationally determined contributions from each of these countries. Now India has also recently announced its intended nationally determined contributions, and one of the contribution is India becoming net zero by the year 2070. And in fact, each party to the Paris Agreement of United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change is required to establish a nationally determined contribution that include targets, commitments from these countries for mitigating greenhouse gas emissions and also adopting the climate impacts as well. And Climate Promise 2025 essentially aims to align next generation of developing countries NDCs to the goals of 2015 Paris Climate Agreement, right? So we have 2015 COP21 United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change Climate Agreement, right, of reducing. So what COP21 or Paris Climate Deal talks about, right? So this is very important, right? So we need to understand this Paris Agreement. So Paris Agreement set a certain target for mitigating the global warming or climate change. So it wanted that by 2100 global temperature should not be more than 2 degree Celsius, or limit global temperature increases just 2 degree centigrade above the pre-industrial level, because after industrialization, because of huge emissions into the atmosphere, global warming, and that has also resulted in increasing global temperatures, climate change. So therefore it aimed to limit global temperature increase to just 2 degrees Celsius above the pre-industrial level. But if possible, the world should limit the global temperature increase just below 1.5 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial level. That is what the Paris Climate Deal talks about. Okay, and I hope you have understood this. And next is geoparks. So we'll try to understand what are these geoparks and why it is in use. And recently, United Nations Education, Scientific and Cultural Organization has endorsed addition of 18 new geoparks in the global geoparks network. So who endorses global geoparks? UNESCO endorses global geoparks, and recently UNESCO endorsed addition of 18 new geoparks as part of global geoparks network, right? So what is this global geopark network? So as we have already discussed, that it is a non-profit international association, and it was officially established in the year 2014. And the global geoparks network was founded as an international partnership, and it is developed under the umbrella of United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization. And in fact, networking and collaboration among global geoparks is an important component of the global geopark network. So few things that you need to remember about the global geopark network: it was established in the year 2014, and it is part of the UNESCO. And in fact, so these three are major geoparks which are being added to the global geoparks network. So first one is Land of Extinct Volcanoes. This is located in Poland, Europe. And in fact, the Land of Extinct Volcanoes features a distinctive remnants of Paleozoic and Cenozoic volcanoes. And secondly, Impact Crater Lake, that is located in Finland, and in fact it is Europe's largest impact crater lake, formed through a collision with a meteorite 78 million years ago. And third, Uberaba, which is in Brazil. So its tagline is Land of the Giants, refer to its rich paleontological heritage, right? So these are three very important major geoparks which are being added to the global geopark network, right? So next one is protection of Great Indian Bustard. So we'll try to understand about the Great Indian Bustard, because this is also very important, and it is a critically endangered species which is found in the Indian subcontinent. And just a very few number of Great Indian Bustard, around 100 birds are remaining, and the threat that the Great Indian Bustards are mostly facing from the power lines or communication lines, right? So recently Supreme Court has come out with a judgment on the Great Indian Bustard. So Supreme Court has removed a blanket direction of the undergrounding of high voltage and low voltage power lines in the entire region. For example, in Rajasthan, we can found the highest numbers of the Great Indian Bustard. But in recent times, what generally happening is that because of the power lines in these habitat areas of Great Indian Bustard, so they are colliding with these power lines, and that leads to the death of these Great Indian Bustard species, and that has also substantially reduced its number. And because of that reason, Supreme Court has recently come out with a judgment on the Great Indian Bustard. And Supreme Court has also constituted an expert committee to look into this matter of the Great Indian Bustard or these species facing threat from the power lines. And in fact, this committee will determine the scope, feasibility and extent of overhead underground electric lines in the area identified as priority areas for the conservation of the Great Indian Bustard. And in fact, This committee set up by the Supreme Court will also review international best practices for the conservation of similar species such as Haubara bustard in the Middle East. And in fact, this committee will also facilitate conservation and protection measures for the Great Indian Bustard as well as other fauna species to the topography. And in fact, the protection status of the Great Indian Bustard, of course, without any doubt, because it is a critically endangered species, it has extended protection under Schedule 1 of the Wildlife Protection Act, Conservation for International Trade in Endangered Species, Appendix 1, and the International Union for Conservation of Species. It accorded the status of critically endangered species, right? So critically endangered, so after this, if numbers of these wild bird species further dwindle, it would be categorized as extinct in wild and further further extinction. And apart from that, some other details with respect to Great Indian Bustard. So males have larger black crowns and black band across the breast, and an agro grassland bird which is endemic to the Indian subcontinent, and it is also an omnivorous bird. I hope you knew what is an omnivorous thing. So it is an omnivorous bird and it is endemic to the Indian subcontinent. I hope you also knew about what is an endemic species, which is only found in those regions, and it mainly survives in the Thar desert of Rajasthan. Around 100 individuals are remaining, and apart from Rajasthan, we can also see the Great Indian Bustard species in the states of Rajasthan, Gujarat, and few tracts of Andhra Pradesh as well. However, so some other details with respect to the Great Indian Bustard, right? So you can also go through the remaining details of the Great Indian Bustard, but the overall focus and objective is to make sure that this species will not go extinct. There is also a need to protect and conserve the Great Indian Bustard species, and that's all in this lecture, and thank you so much. So please subscribe our YouTube channel and also hit the like button. Thank you.